Let me get started here. Greetings, peace and greetings to all. Y'all doing out there? Y'all doing out there? Got my notes right here. Got my notes right here. Okay. Open. And okay. Let me get my refreshments. I'm giving honor to source of the creator, the most high, the ancestors, known and unknown, for making all these things possible right now. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're here with me. To all my viewers, hundreds and billions, millions, even outside when I leave this world. Much love to you all. May you find peace. May you find security, stableness, love, most importantly, authenticity in these moments. Okay. How do I want to dive into this? I was laying down, and for me, I'm really just recognizing a lot of being more the observer than the absorber. And I'm recognizing a lot of getting a lot of major clarity, getting a lot of major clarity, and um I really want to talk on the subject of requirements. Remember that word, requirements. In that verse, I'm actually pull up that verse of. Let's see, I can still be looking at the camera while I do this. Yep. To I did a video on this a while back. To whom is given. I be getting major, major clarity because as I really speak about this, I'm noticing it has a ripple effect on not only my world, but the collective. Um, and is it Luke 12:48? To whom is given, much so of him or her shall much be required of him. To whom is given, much is required. Okay. How I want to get into this. This goes down the pipeline of what's coming down the pipeline and what was coming down has been coming down the pipeline when it comes to leadership, when it comes to me getting chapstick. Because I can already tell you now I'm about to go in. I'm really about to go in because you know, I'm honored. Like I said, I'm truly honored to have the courage to even discuss these things because it's not so much being tired. You get to a place where from the depths of your spirit, your soul, your essence. You see so much, almost like people living in the idea or basking in the the illusion of hell, almost, and the comfortability of that. So what I want to get into is first I had some clarity. I feel like this is gonna be a two-part, but in the same video, where I want to first again requirements and also leadership. And the reason why this is so vital is that we're seeing what the distortion, the reflection of integrity, what integrity isn't, and also what authenticity isn't as well. I'm seeing this so apparent, so clear right now, not even just in my mind's eye, but physically. And I can say that has started with me and also the leadership from childhood development. And when I look at the systems in place, we're talking about this very development or uh, development and also undeveloped emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically that's playing out in this system that is currently collapsing. So that with being said, to whom is given, much is required. And when I say that, it's like when you look at the fact of how, when you look at leadership, when you look at people in position, when you think of a politician or when you think of a person's in certain positions, um, I feel the very most important vital thing we forget about in these positions is that there is a requirement. It's just like when you contractually agree to something and so forth. Now I'm going to dive deeper into things more, not just ancestral, but spiritual and all playing out to this physical. If you new to my channel, I talk on things. I literally um, speak about things on all different levels. And being that I've always felt like I've always been um, deep into my awareness of, being spiritual, is has heightened even more with my discernment, with my awareness around who I've become and becoming. So that being said, when you do hear me speak, again, I always speak about or relate to things about coming home to self, which is the spirit self or the higher self, truest self, or the essence. Things that require you to go inward and then to navigate this human experience, as some may say, or just life in general, however you perceive it. So that being said, there's much been required of people in leadership in the earthly status. There was things required of them, and that could be things more leaning towards negative and or positive, because beyond this physical there is forces at play, unseen forces, those who are in tune, those even who have a certain belief systems. There is an awareness in all these belief systems, or in these structures, pantheons and so forth, whether it's like Santeria, um, um, other African pantheons, a lot of things systematically that deal with spiritual forces. So where I'm leading into is that behind what you see on the surface physically, there are still things at play that you do not see. Those who know interact with the spirit realm, those who interact with knowing that we're not the only ones here allegedly experiencing this life. So with that, that can seem very out of sight or context for a lot of people. They cannot comprehend it. But religiously, when you're dealing with a lot of things, when you put two and two together, it makes a lot of sense to why people act the way they do or express themselves, whether it's first person or even the fact that when you think about certain religious figures and characters, it literally, what I feel by design, has been used to not so much steer people away from um, being better human wise or being a better human, but more so the misdirection or the miscommunication from knowing thyself or knowing self more, rather than it taking the focus on putting it on someone else. So again, the reason I say that kind of ties into like the leadership aspect of what we have been dealing with, or the forces or the powers that used to be, when you're dealing with a new coming of an age, and the blueprint being implemented or even imprinted within us. And when you think on levels of who it um who it benefits more, who it has benefited, and in reality, um, even when people feel they're a step ahead of people just because of status, creed, or color, monetary, and so forth, in reality, actuality, those who know, who are very much in tune with self, know that they're that was the biggest illusion, if I could say that. And so this is why I can see an emphasis on people spinning the block, as we call it, meaning that people circling back around when they get some type of clarity or awareness. But me, I'm going to dive into even deeper on higher, on different levels of people who are perceived to be um, uh, what's been given to certain people perceived to be they're more valuable because of their status. But again, to whom is given, much is required of them. Let's just use a certain political figure, a certain person as an example. You don't know the requirements or the contract spiritually, or even what they agreed to prior to their incarnation, per se. So a lot of things being stirred up, or a lot of the fear propaganda or certain things being pushed, has a lot to do with people deciding, who for them people individually deciding and for themselves, are they going to rise above the occasion? Are they going to, when odds are stacked up against you, when all odds are stacked up against you, are you going to be the one to go within, love on yourself, see past the illusion, see past the fear, what's being projected, and be able to rise as the phoenix that you are? So that being said, that is what's really required of you. It's just as you having guardians when you were born. There is a requirement. People like to use the word God, creator, source, whatever, but there is requirements when it comes to you having an assignment or a mission here. People who have built businesses, corporations, and so forth, there are requirements in those fine print when they are going through the hiring stage or bringing candidates along and so forth. Your life is no different. Source, the creator, so forth, whatever you want to subscribe to, there's requirements from you as well. So everyone right now in a suit, and I'm not just talking about, in a physical suit, like dressing up. I'm talking about on this earth plane, whoever you are, everyone has requirements. And whatever intentions behind those requirements that you are assigned to is what you will reap, therefore, from what you sown. So that being said, um, we have to pay very close attention to the leadership we've been given even when we were younger. And that means looking at the character. And then beyond the character, looking at the integrity of that character, looking at the authenticity, looking at the characteristics, looking at um, morality, principles, and so forth. So when I say there's a switcheroo, that was a word that came to me when there's a switcheroo in leadership and so forth, simply because when you're looking at the old narrative collapse, there was requirements. Even if, let's say, you can have 10,000 pastors, right? But out of those 10,000 preachers, pastors, apostles, whatever they want to call themselves, who really is teaching or sharing with the masses the importance of knowing self, or literally keeping them in a loop or a spell per se of this false sense of hierarchy, I should say, and this concept of believing that someone you never met or someone that you never encountered physically, you haven't had any personal interactions, no type of exchange, can have so much emphasis, so much power, or so much something over your life. I see that no differently than the systems in place when you look at, say, how the governmental or the shift in power has already happened. I'm not expecting people to accept or receive. Those who are in alignment are already set on the path of receiving this message. That being said, it's just like I'm required to share these things. There's a requirement, and therefore the reward from that will be a life more harmonious. That, see, the world wants you to believe that you should live in fear of, oh gosh, I gotta run from these people. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. Oh my gosh, this not. See, we were never designed to live fear in fear. I'm fearless, and I know that very well because as I begin to become into who I am more and more, why should I feel fear death physically when it happens to everyone? My whole perception changed around that, seeing life come into this world from a womb of a woman, seeing the miraculous aspect of how a man at a time can conceive, or a woman can conceive from a man and woman coming together, and the beauty of that scientifically or just metaphysically and so forth, just seeing how something blossoms as everything does in life from the intention. And that's the beauty of it again. The intention from when you met that person, the intention from what that child comes in that same energy, still pure at the same moment, with the intention of did I have the intention on loving this person, or did I love myself? Did they love themselves? Did they have knowledge of themselves? That's a whole nother discussion. But the beauty of seeing life from coming together, and I was telling myself, like, what type of leadership or people wants to push so much of fear and manipulation, even when you look at how religious religion or even things are have been used to distract people from self. Let me elaborate. When I look at co-creation or creation in itself, there's no part of me that wants to believe that a man or a woman came together and their story is more valuable than my own life. That belief system is held more valuable than, I mean, what I mean by this is like the leadership behind pushing that narrative that a person outside of me, or a person I've never seen or connected with, has more value on my life, or is more valuable or seen or held to this hierarchy, or just superiority, let alone does it an image that doesn't look like me or reflect me. So when I'm going back to requirements, when I look at leadership, where is the accountability? Or even more so, how, when I look at the structures of even how imagery and certain things have been used, how inconsiderate, my video talks about, is it inconsiderate, is that a word, inconsideracy, or inconsiderate perspective on how you don't even make an image of such a figure in its original form, or reflect that to be used to for a sense of empowerment rather than disempowerment or devalue. And psychologically, again, the beauty or just the manipulation in how, again, it was used. So the reason I'm bringing this up is when I look at leadership of people in communities who can emphasize so much of the importance of people or figures, but yet what I find the mental disorder or discomfort in is to convince people to believe that if I'm coming to you about an issue and a problem, um, the first response for some people is to take it to, when I'm here right now, take it to God, or take it to Jesus, or take it to whatever. And the awareness around that is like, I look at that as very passive. And I also look at that as very, um, a way of like the inconsiderate of not considering one's emotions and feelings behind what they're going through at that moment. So when I look at a lot of these constructs or organizations, it doesn't reflect, again, on my other previous video, how I talk about the organ. We let the word organization, and how things are structured, how coordinates certain things such as the body operate. So when I look at the collective aspect of the human body or human design or people as a collective, I'm looking at the leadership. I'm looking at the leadership of roles or people who call themselves, or who have called themselves to be, rather than not even having a direct connection to source or the creator. Because this is what's going to be illuminated. Those who proclaim to be something of an apostle or prophet, prophetess, or, all these things, again, there was a requirement for you. There was a requirement. For some of you, I realized like the requirement was for you to be deceitful. There was a requirement that was required of you. So it's like, it's not an attack. It's not it's more so getting people to counter and realize like, do you realize that it is required of people to act or be the way they are? This is the beauty of what's unfolding. We have to see the dysfunction of what isn't leadership, you know, with integrity, to be able to usher in and bring forth leadership, something the world has never seen. Things that now maybe eons ago or years ago, way back when, but as I emphasize more on the vision I've had, I talked about it like a year or two ago or whatever, when I was talking about earthly status, spiritual status, or even the fact of me having this vision of seeing people in leadership who had been consumed by so much darkness or had no light within them. So that being said, they were removed, catapulted almost out of their seat, given this insight that they were being removed and replaced with that of people who had a light within them. That light is like that of the end of the tunnel, where humanity seemed very lost. That light was those who have this enlightenment literally inward, or those who have this essence or this vision or this dream collectively, individually, but collectively have this vision of humanity um, evolving and evolving into things that reflect that authenticity and truth, and things that bring us more harmonious um, experiences and people who can live amongst each other outside of all the things that divided people, because that was required of them to do that, if that makes sense. It was literally required of, like, when you see movies of people who are, I mean, I don't, because villain can be used different ways, or heroes and so forth. I'm very discerning of people who want to save the day, or who want to, who I was walking a minute ago and I was wanted to shed light on, even um I'm gonna use the word cooning, because I see a lot of that. And I'm gonna use that very vaguely when I say how color don't make you kin, and a lot of us would love to just clap for the people in said position. And in reality, I'm clapping for the collapse of all things that are not reflecting authenticity and truth and love in its highest form. I'm clapping for everything that doesn't reflect that. Because when I sit here and ponder on what leadership is, no matter their status and so forth, when you see certain people right now, they are, um, let's say someone who has proclaims to have a lot of money or so forth. This is a representation again of the leadership and what's required of them. When you're being watched, and what I mean by that, people, whether it's celebrities or whomever it is, people of high status and what they call themselves, they too have to tune into people who are also high ranking spiritually, because those very people love to throw around the word chosen, or those people who have anointing per se, their mission is so divinely guided and protected. It's because when you have a mission to reach the masses, the collective, there is no force in and on this earth's plane that can stop something that you've been given innately, that's been imprinted in your DNA, in who you are, no matter how much spells, illusions, or magic or whatever bumps along the road comes in. There is forces that are greater than what has been at play before, you know, your arrival here for a lot of you. So as much as they were required to try to attempt to do whatever, you are also required to bounce back, but also return and rise as a phoenix from everything, because this is prophecy being fulfilled. This is written in the stars. The same stars people proclaim to be, you are also a universe. You're also they can be stars, but you are a universe. You have the universe within them. They proclaim to be certain things and even bought into a whole lie and manipulation as well from forces or from their own ego being consumed by that to believe that they are greater than source itself. So again, these people who have this anointing have a requirement. They have requirements. They have what is that thing called? Conditions, terms and conditions. And under these circumstances, da 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 da, certain people are not supposed to touch you. Certain people are not supposed to do certain things to you. And there are consequences for everything. What you're seeing play out are consequences of the generations before us. Most that are very inconsiderate. Um, and this goes on so many levels because when you think about generations, again, I've talked how they prioritize material security. This has been going on for so long to where that was the powers that be to keep people distracted from balancing. I was about to say like chakras or balancing their life with the emotional and the physical, the spiritual and the physical, things as such. With said systems in place, it's I've been seeing so much highlighted around it that literally it's almost like I like to use the term psychosis, but it's almost like the mental disorder that people literally like have scripted and perfected being so much of a master manipulator in certain leadership. It's like when I see certain things like politics or certain people, certain status and so forth, it's like they've gone off the deep end to be so consumed by what do they call it? Like alter, not even just alter ego, but by their ego. And the only people who can almost like reverse, come in and balance things out are those who are holistic practitioners or healers or, herbalists or people who are connected to something greater and get their messages from that said source. Because when I look at how things have been playing out, how can people, whether whatever religions they believe in, especially when you look at Christianity and certain things as such, I ask myself, how can there be so many churches, so many pastors, so many denominations, or whatever it is, and there still is no harmony amongst the community? So you are the problem. You are. You are a part of the problem until someone comes along and addresses, what needs to be said, facts. And the beauty of this is that um, people who have, going deeper on what they have contractually agreed to or signed, there are requirements of people to act out the way that they do. But they don't realize, like, there also are consequences to what you have carried on from generations for what has been happening without the world. So let's go back to leadership. No one is exempt. So let me say this first. All of you out there who do watch me, who do catch wind of this and so forth, you have requirements in the evolution of humanity, and that's your free will. You have it is required of you. That's your free will. Like you can do or not do. And the importance of this is like when I see leadership, when I say leadership, think of people in sports who is the biggest name, who has the opportunity to change or create some type of major shift with supporting the evolution or the balancing of what is happening. And with whether they do or not, there's still consequences. There, people are receiving karma and consequences as we speak because they have gotten so consumed by what was required of them from source. Because again, I'm not higher than anyone, more valuable than anyone. What I will say I'm better at is leadership. And that's because I know myself more. And when I'm recognizing the leadership at play, these are so called people of power or leadership who do not reflect authenticity, who do not reflect integrity, who do not have a care in the world for the collective and more so are for the people. And the end of times or the end of their reign has already happened. It's already happened. People are tired of cutting on TV, looking at certain stuff to where uh, you're hearing about this person's life more, now that the the well-being is a highlight, the spiritual well-being and mental and emotional. The shift is about the balance in people becoming more focused on their life and how it affects everyone else. That's the beauty of all this shit that's unfolding. Now, the powers that used to be wanted you to believe, like, this is your leadership. Accept it or else. Control, fear, manipulation. This is your leadership. And even with that, I tell myself, well, obviously, I've seen different things, or there's something higher at play. And you know it, but you're going to still throw your stone and hide your hand. And that's you're going to see play out so clearly is that many have thrown their stone and hidden their hand. And before it's too late, they're going to try to circle back around and assume that you are still this very individual that has forgotten about. Just as that's how the old narrative and the old foundations will want people to do, is to forget about your pain, forget about what has happened. But in reality, when you are doing shadow work and healing work, that is the important aspect of all of this is that individually we are doing things and that connects us to all the effects of all people that affects everybody when we encourage each other as men to heal. But then when you are facing your shit, then you will see the importance of the little boy, because that little boy inside of you, that inner child, the essence, who did not get that healthy and holistic relationship. And I know it can be tough because a lot of us did not get it. And then we ask, it's required of us now every day to make room for that little boy. I did it today. I did it today. And what's so beautiful about it, I can actually share with you um, what I'm actually learning, which I realize is a part of, come on, what is a part of this. Why won't let me slide this over? What is a part of this shift that's happening? How could I do this? Okay, okay, perfect. There we go. So yeah, I actually had a moment today because this is Scorpio season, and it's literally like the waters, the emotions, and a lot of us are realizing like this is cleansing season, and who better can tell you than that? In Western astrology, I would be considered a Scorpio, but who better? Like I know how to live my life through transformation, rebirth, and so forth. And the rebirth has a lot to do with not just inwardly, but seeing the systems that are collapsing and at play and so forth, realizing like this is the moment for you to do a tremendous amount of healing. And also with Scorpio season exposes shadows of yourself, meaning like your insecurities, the depths of you and so forth. Don't hide from that. Don't run from it. Accept it, embrace it. And this is happening individually and collectively. So I was talking about like what I'm doing currently is like healing my inner child. And I came across something that someone I know who is connected to a certain uh, school or whatever, and it has to do with traveling. I knew nothing about Montessori, But as I read about the things that they were studying or coming into connection with it, and then seeing the the comparisons or the differences of you can say a belief system and actuality, because when you look at a lot of public schools, it literally doesn't empower our children or to really look at themselves or even the representation or leadership in those places. And it's not an attack on the teachers because they do great at what they do. But the only reason why I say that is simply because from what they're given and what's required of them, to whom is given, much is required. I keep saying this and emphasizing because people who y'all proclaim to be in power, you giving it to them. Now that we take back our power, we're realizing they were required. It was required of them to remind when you evolve, you there are people in positions. There's a requirement of them to either choose to empower others or to disempower, to devalue or to see value in others, to have empathy and compassion or to not, to hate. Y'all gotta realize this is the forces that have been at play. So now I was reading up on what the Montessori actually implements in the public school. I was like, whoa. When I see how the system, and I don't have to agree everything with Montessori, but when I look at the structure of how they speak to their students or the kids, for one, they have titles in there like called guides. They're not called teachers, called guides. And I had to look more into depth about the lady or the sister that actually started and her belief system's own. Matter of fact, I can do this. Her belief system own actually Montessori. Let's see. Like I said, I don't know much about who she is specifically, but just by I got a little brief thing about it. Maria Montessori Sori was an Italian physician and educator. Oh wow, just the 1900s. The approach emphasizes child-led learning and hands-on activities. Montessori education focuses on the fostering independence and critical thinking. Now, when you think about public schools, no, not at all. A lot of things I see with public schools is like literally opposite. Like I said, I don't know all the details. You can research this for themselves. I'm actually looking for the quote. I'm looking for the quote that 6. Well, that's interesting. So that's 100 years. Is that 100? How many years is that? It started in 1906. Sometimes I feel like I'm not saying all women because there are some women that are behind things that are very malice and manipulative, or is a word I'm looking for, benevolent. They haven't had the purest intent when it comes to our children. And I see that. I see that with the daycare structures. I see, y'all got to realize all these things are connected systematically when you look at the government. So when I see this government shutdown, this is the old world going away. I don't give a fuck how much you don't want to accept and believe it. The new world of things has a lot to do with I'm being able to recognize the older generations begin to fade their belief systems, their structures, their blueprint, and them suffering with it, whether they want to evolve or embrace, contribute, and so forth. They don't have to, but at the same moment, what I'm recognizing clearly, again, it doesn't prioritize emotional well-being or spiritual and so forth. There was a quote that This lady that created a Montessori. Let me see. Okay, it says method. Montessori system is based on beliefs in creative potential of children, their drive to learn. Let's see. I'm just doing some research, y'all. Y'all bear with me. Their drive to learn. It's taking a long time to load. Their drive to learn. See if I can get one better one. The revolutionary approach to educate developed over a century ago. Her transform has transformed the way of children learn and grow their article. Richard is okay. Let me see. I hear about someone being born. But this is a whole nother country, so it shows you the shift of how things can reach other nations and so forth. She was a physician, educator, and advocate for children's rights. That says a lot. How many people in leadership right now really advocate for our children? Like, not even so much of their rights, but their fucking well-being. Montessori's Montessori's observation of children naturally curiosity and ability to learn independently led to develop the Montessori method, Montessori, an educational approach that emphasizes self-directed learning, hands-on activities, and prepared environments, like life skills per se. When you look at public school settings and how much emphasis, we're told, oh, go do this, and do that. There isn't, when you're talking about very young, how these kids are learning things as such, like hands-on and self directed learning. Like, for instance, someone was showing me how like they'll put the letter P, but they don't put an animal or something like a pumpkin or a pig or something with it because we're visual and we also learn through other things like emotions and so forth. Um, let's see here. She was also having social change. It was a quote. There was a quote. Holistic development. I didn't even see. I'm reading and learning more. Holistic development. Montessori's educations support the holistic development of a child, addressing cognitive, emotional, social, and physical growth. The method's emphasis on independent and self-regulation helps children develop strong, effective functioning skills, which are essential for success in both academic and personal endeavors. Man, I'm over here learning more just by looking it up. The method, alignment with child's development. Montessori's aligned with the natural child's development process means that children are taught in ways that are developmentally appropriate. This approach not only enhances learning outcomes, and I'm reading this from Project Montessori. I don't know the history of evolution, but of Montessori. This approach not only enhances learning outcomes, but also supports emotional well-being in children who are not pressured to conform to rigid standards or timelines. This is amazing. And again, the founder of this is Maria Montessori. Again, like I said, I haven't read everything to be like, oh, I just want to jump in and agree. But judging from this, when I look at my perspective from how I grew up and I'm still learning, I would have loved to experience this. I would have loved to experience this. And the beauty of this is because how could I say this? It's not even just the equal rights per se, but the disadvantage a lot of people have is because of their placement and their environments and their demographics. And also when you look at class, when you look at all these things and how some kids aren't even um, exposed to things as such that's very vital and they should be getting at a very young age. Imagine kids such as myself and certain demographics that are young who are learning the importance of emotional well-being, and self-regulation for one, self-regulation and independence. Again, self-sufficiency. So this again um, shows how people progress in the world. Even when you have private school, I came across a video on Instagram where this guy was giving a lecture on kids who were, at the top of their class or, because their mom and dad, basically highlighting privilege. And the thing about why I keep emphasizing requirements and leaderships is how isn't our kids, when you look at leadership, why isn't there a requirement for all kids to receive free education? In other countries, there are free education. Why would a country that has an immense amount of resources, you want to question leadership, question the people in your community? When I look at, I've said before in my other video, when you think about responsibility and their requirements in the community, whether it's like the HOAs or certain communities, when I go look at all of these communities in Circle, there's requirements of them. There's responsibility, there's an accountability, there's organization, because the synchronization within those people, they have to be organized within themselves. You know why this is so important? You see why you ask yourself why people don't get along with each other. Why do people of certain religion have an issue with this person if they believe in this? What has that person done to you personally for you to feel that your God is more powerful and whatever your higher source power is, why does that matter? Why is there an issue around people of different color or people of different nationality or certain class and so forth? And, are you required to treat them that way because they don't meet your requirements or they don't fuel your ego? Hmm. So I ask myself again, leadership, what do we call it? What does leadership really reflect? Or are y'all hiding, tucking your fucking tails because of what? You fear the consequences? You fear the consequences because certain demographics, what they call it snitching, what I call it honesty, because people don't want a mirror. Well, I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give you the mirror. Again, for all of you in leadership, yeah, you can live in the hills, you can live in your Hollywoods, you can live in all these other places. And somewhere along down the line, your child is going to find out there are other kids that don't live like that. And then with that, they're going to develop a belief system around what they have learned. Because, child development, they're going to believe that, they're going to develop this superior complex unconsciously because of your belief system as a mother and father, because your leadership starts there. They're seeing the leader in you. And what are you reflecting in the world? I don't give a fuck about your status. I don't care if you're the CEO of a company that makes $1 billion. You call that morality and authenticity and integrity to make so much, to have this, and walk by people and see other families who do not have what you have? And you think that, again, to whom is given, much is required, that there will come a time in this world where things shift with morality? People start to uphold morality, truth, and honesty. The source said, "Let me come in here. These fuckers don't forgot about the requirements, what I required of them. That's what you have forgot. You forgot what was required of you before you came here and accumulated what you got or came into what you have. You forgot, didn't you? Huh? You forgot about universal law. What you just assumed that just because as you climbed the ladder and stepped up on people along the way, that was not going to follow you. You assume that you're going to just build your communities, you're going to just build systems And like I told you before, when you look at the body of what people have created, and when you look at the organization, looks to me right now that those organs are failing. You know what's so funny about the human body? There's a study, I said you can look this up. They said that death starts in the feet. It's so funny because the feet in astrology is ruled by Pisces. Pisces represents the dreams. So I wonder what haunts people when they see in the dream realm. Or not even just that. Pisces is a soul aspect, like the shoe, soul, or even just the fact of its representation of like the importance of like the root of the tree, how people ground themselves, the importance of the foot, because you cannot really do much without, or you want to be more mobile or do certain things. Something like you can have turf toe, those who know of athletes, or certain, something so small, a ligament, and it can change your whole trajectory in life. So it's so funny when I talk about even the fact of your organizations, there's a disease in your organization, and it starts with your leadership. And now that this leadership is starting to consume y'all, or this parasitic thing is consuming your organizations, it's starting to reflect. It's starting to reflect. It looks like your organizations are bleeding. Looks like some internal bleeding is going on. There's some internal damages, internal affairs. And what's so beautiful from all this? It's like this is why it's so important. Why how I'm highlighting the inner child, and I'm also highlighting the importance of well-being, because again, these aren't organizations. When you talk about our children, these aren't organizations that highlight the importance of our well-being of our children. Like I said, I would have never known without traveling and coming into experience of actually what the Montessori actually meant, or the connections to that. And just to see the importance of like how much they learn and how much they go through. And I'm still like learning and receiving this, because um it was talking about, let me see if I can bring this image right here. And this is not all of them, but it's something that, one of the people I know were learning as a guide. They're called a guide, not a teacher, a guide. And and it's so funny because when you look at teachers, what are they teaching? And what's so funny about this? I'm glad I just said this, is because the issue I see with teachers, and it's not even just the fact of, it's not pointing the blame. It's the what I feel where inconsideracy comes in, or just being the lack of awareness of self, or the actual. You have teachers who are not in tune with themselves. They don't have a healthy dialogue with themselves. I'm not saying all, but when I look at the climate and the systems, they do not do this, or they do like when you look at public schools, when you look at daycares, it says positive things that say this is a part of like what the guides. Oh, that's what I was finishing saying. The teacher. If you having people who are just subjected to the title of subscribing to the title of just teacher, life will show you that when you look at how being a student of life, there are moments where you are the teacher and there are moments where you are the student. So in reality, everyone is a student and teacher. But when people have this title and just so consumed and become so consumed by their title, there is no. There is no almost like force correction for them. And that's the generations we're coming from. It's like it's either their way or no way. And this is where you see implemented a lot of fear, control, manipulation, and so forth. And this is what's happening. This is what people are tired of. And this is where you're seeing power of the people returning, the overthrown of said the governmental, people now learning themselves, using their own mind, taking back their power. thinking for themselves, feeling for themselves, not being doped up by certain outlets and social media and so forth. A lot of stuff is backfiring. But anywho, the guy, the guys learn how to, talk to children. When I read this, I almost like had to remind myself, I need to say this to myself. But it was saying, you are helpful. Like, this is what they say to the kids. You are right. I know, and certain things I wouldn't say, but just listening to that, I was like, wow, I've never had no one say this to me, even in public school settings. Being yourself is enough. I trust you. We'll make, we all make mistakes. It's okay. You can try that again tomorrow. It's okay to feel this way. Being kind makes you strong. You can do hard things. Anything is possible. You can make a difference. I heard you use kind words. You are worth it. I see you. You did it. You are important. I love being with you. I believe in you. I'm grateful for you, for your help, for your support. Man, what the fuck? Let me tell you something. Even saying those words remind me of the importance of like reassuring myself, my inner child. This is something I'm gonna take in consideration because by me not having a father affected my leadership. Let me say it again. When you grow up with a parent, like single parenting or in homes like that, that plays a vital role in leadership. Because a lot of us are out here leading. In actuality, we're not leading. We're following the footsteps of other people who did not know what healthy leadership looked like or even embodied it. We're literally like what they say, the blind can't lead the blind. We're literally following after people right over a cliff into um, confusion and manipulation. And that when I say that, why would I listen to elders or other people who have never done what I've done, who never walked the path least traveled, who never faced their fears? And what I mean by that, just even as a darker man, to even speak up, to stand in my truth, to care to be an influence in knowing what is required of me beyond the opinions and the requirements of the world. Those requirements don't align with my purpose and my destiny. Because if I listen to that, if I listen to mama, if I listen to all these other people, still learning through my mistakes and realizing it's okay. But at the same moment, if I'm looking at their life, they don't even listen. They're not even listening. They're not. We're coming from generations that did not prioritize their well-being. So listening to these words reminds me of the impact and the effect that I will have and I am having on men that look like me, who needs to see this, who needs to see an embodiment of a man, and embodiment of people who uphold the importance of loving themselves through the judgment, through the criticism, through the smear campaigns, through the those who assume that they care and pull back their support when they know you are here to do far more greater things, and even better things than they did. Not to say that, in a way that they aren't valuable. No, I'm making better conscious decisions. I'm sharpening my sword. I'm mastering what mom and dad and so forth didn't do in a different way, in a more holistic way. So again, when I look at these different things that need desperately to be implemented in a school setting, where is the support? Because so much ego and so much thing that is dissolving amongst people now because they're being faced with a mirror, they'll either feel intimidated, attacked, which has everything to do with them and not me. Because I had to day to day face me. I had to day to day learn me and grow and align with people who are also willing to grow with me. and with the children and so forth. The importance of I'm realizing reading this, there are so many people I know, hundreds, if not thousands personally, that have never heard these words at a young age. So, as much as they want to persuade themselves to believe that they are not following a path, they're following a path that's familiar and comfortable. They're not leading our children into, a life of harmony and peace. The fucking truth is, if you don't have knowledge of yourself and you're not willing to heal and face who you are, bruh, sis, whomever you are, whatever nationality or creed, you are a follower. You're a follower. And truth is, you're leading yourself down a path of self-destruction. I've been there. Self-destruction. Because who's telling you about you? How can everyone tell you who to be? When have you ever listened to your voice? When have you ever spoken healthy to yourself? When have you ever held space for yourself? And I get it because we're coming from generations and we're surrounded by people. We're in environments, we're in settings where people don't even talk healthy or have been. Or even if, let me go back to even the people who are in those settings, let's say who have access to these schools and so forth. Even when I was around that setting of people, I got to actually go into the Montessori. And it's still the uncomfortability of still seeing people who do not look like me who have access to this because of maybe their class, maybe because of, mom and daddy money or whatever it is they do. But still the part that they refuse to see of their uncomfortability of being a man darker, being in that setting. You actually have people feel like people that look like me shouldn't have access to things like that. Or you have people who actually assume that um, due to their ego or so forth, their fear is for me to have access to things as such, to expose it, to also see the exposure in their uncomfortability of their judgment real assuming that I'm just like someone else or what's been perceived or what they received through their upbringing of not being around people that look like me. There's so many things, so many things. And then me being in these settings realizing like how it's organized for people to be like me not to even be a part of. See, the divine to have you connect with someone and be with someone and something, and they'll have that specific person guide you or lead you right into what you need to see, experience, only for you to see again what's inauthentic and what's of integrity, and also what you came here to evolve and to shake up and to recreate and reinvent. I'm not at all mad about people who, some people did want the best for their children. Some people actually believe that people that look like me, there's no good to them because of the superior complex, because of power they used to be, and all these people in place who actually feel that people like me are valuable. And it's not even all their fault because some of them, some of their ancestry or whatever it is, do come from hatred of people. But then you got some who are oblivious because of the fact of they unknowingly grew up in this. So sometimes you have people who are unknowingly racist. Yes, that is a thing. They are unknowingly have hatred and they don't realize it, their uncomfortability. I've been in settings like this where it's like they don't see the importance of how we've always been here. People of different shades, of darker shades and so forth. You just been given a narrative and force fed that your progression in life had nothing to do with us, which is sad. And the same thing for darker people. Our progression as well. If I look at my life, every person in my life that were darker did not support me. due to their inability to connect to themselves or have whatever issues with themselves or, didn't want to support because they felt I would be, outgrow them or be bigger. So this isn't really about color. This isn't really about an internal thing. Because once we get to the depths of it, if we really created societies or belief systems or communities around structured around foundations that implemented or emphasize or prioritize emotional well-being, um, self-sufficiency, then you wouldn't have people out here in leadership trying to um, not outwit but step on others on their way up. You would have people or kids that grow up who feel insecurity that just because of this person is lighter, that they're better, or have kids that are lighter who grow up, and not all of them grow up in the same setting, but assume that they have to be a certain way to even be successful. So again, there's so many different perceptions or perspectives on life to how people are actually not seeing the bigger picture of how we all aid each other even during our ignorance, through our inability to connect with ourselves deeply, to see how we're still aiding in the evolution of humanity, whether people want to accept it or not. It's going to happen. It already will. Because there are people now looking, seeking for that relationship, that connection, that leadership that reflects their core values. So why are we surprised at the leadership that has been in place that has led everyone collectively to self-sabotaging, self destruction? And that's what you see when it collapses inward. It's no different. It's no difference in it collapsing outwardly. So for people who feel that they have been progressing with their status and so forth, let me let you know, from people who grew up in certain demographics where you perceive it as poverty, I don't see you no different than the janitor or the CEO. I've in the last few days I've seen people in settings that literally have scripted. It's almost like they live by this narcissistic script of telling themselves daily, just because they may dress a little different, they have a smile and so forth. I see for a lot of you, your silent panic, your silent chaos that you deal with, that you have to go home to outside of your career. I don't care if it's sports, I don't care whatever it is, that you go home to and have to look in the mirror. Or sometimes you don't even go home and look in the mirror. You go right out there and distract yourself and go live a life that is far from authentic. So for people that live in the trenches, let me tell you from experience, they ain't who you think they is. And color don't make you kin. The best thing you can ever do, wherever you live at, is be your fucking self. And being yourself is enough and will always be enough. And that's from experience of being around in those settings of people who proclaim to come off so powerfully because of what they've gained here in this on this earth and can't take shit with them. Your peace is more valuable. Your spiritual currency that cannot be bought. A lot of these people have been bought out. They're sellouts. They're coons. They're narcissists because of the old world narrative. When it was not created on emotional security and stability, what's the opposite of someone who's not emotionally stable? Hmm. I'll let you be the judge and the answer of that. Because we all at a point in time, you're dealing with people who have been enablers. And the reason I'm calling it out, because at the time I was unconsciously supporting it or a part of it. To where I had to realize, like, whoa, I wonder why this went away, or I wonder why this is away. Because it was required of me, my birthright, to experience. And now, if I'm given this knowledge, it's required of me to share it, not gatekeep. Like some people, some people in certain status, the very thing that they think that they can keep, is always what I always say, the last is being made first. It will literally, through some way, somehow, water always seep through the crack. And that's how information, remember, water mama is the water mama energy is my water holds information. Remember that. So no matter what people can keep, and think about the age of Aquarius is like the water berry. And it's considered wind, but it's like when you look at a storm or a hurricane, this is just my analogy. I see the Aquarian age as the age of like the hurricane, the age of like you got the wind, but then you got the force of the water. So you're getting cleansed, you purify yourself, your mind, your thoughts with the wind, and then you're purifying your body. So it's like you cannot fuck this up. I don't care what and who comes along. It's so obvious that the veil is lifted. So when you think about leadership, given to whom is given, much is required. People were required. I don't care whatever systems in place. I don't care CIA, FBI, and all this other stuff. People are required to bring what is can no longer be hidden to the surface. That's required to. You were given the title, the status, anything you see physically was given first spiritually. That's why no one can ever steal your destiny. No one can ever steal anything. That's the illusion. No one can ever steal or take what hasn't first been given them. The eyes, the gift, the hands, whatever, to grab, to become aware of. So again, to whom is given, much is required. People may assume they got away with stuff. No, they just simply planted a seed of whatever intention behind whatever they've done. And whether it doesn't happen with them, I got to realize this is on a greater scale of like it will come to their children. You know, they may be protected, but at the same moment, things will play out. And once spirits start to collect, it will collect on what's valuable. Think about a life of people who prioritize material security. Guess what end up happening? The divine will use things to come in and collect and take with that which is valuable to people. That can look different on so many parts. What's valuable to you? What do you uphold? What do you prioritize? And so what's valuable, the divine will always come to remind you of that illusion, of that very thing that um what you deem is valuable can continue, like things come in karmically or as a lesson for you to realize like um I'm gonna show you not to attach to this. You know how many people want to believe that certain people in leadership or certain things, this is why they vote. It's like their energy. This is why they want to bring people right back in through their fucking delusion and confusion, or even just through the fact of their own ignorance. They'll sit here and vote or elect or put people right back in the position to fuck them over. People who do not uphold integrity and morality, truth and honesty. And you see that in their systems. You see that in their corporations, organizations, monetary system, government structures, FBI, everything, policing, farming, all it economically. It's on a global scale. Energy is going to unfold where you are. But yeah, and you're going to see it play out. Because ain't nobody exempt. I'll take care of yourself. Peace and blessings. Shalom.